Baseball isn't just numbers, numbers, numbers.
This game is not being played on computers.
You don't do that with a bunch of statistical gimmicks.
You don't put a team together with a computer.
We're talking weighted runs created plus,
expected WOBA,
his sweet spot rate,
defensive runs above average,
average exit velocity,
barrel rate,
xFIP,
BABIP,
SIERA.
We are
above replacement radio.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio. We're talking baseball kind of whenever. I am your host, Chris Chiant. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing very well today. It is Sunday, October 27th as we're recording this. It is the off day between games 2 and 3 of the World Series, meaning we have 2 games to talk about. And this series, the score would suggest it's not close. The analytics would suggest it's not close, but both of these games have been very close, and we have a team up 2-0 right now, which is kind of like the one, which kind of gets rid of the one indicator of oh, this could be a good series going after game 2. Normally when it's 1-1 after 2, you think, okay, we got a series here. That's not what we have, but we do still have a series, right? These games could have been won by either team, regardless of everything else. But yeah, we have a 2-0 Dodgers advantage going into New York. We have a walk-off grand slam. We have a lot of late inning drama, and the Dodgers prevailed in both games.
Yeah, for sure. It doesn't necessarily have the feeling of the Dodgers being up 2-0. There's a possibility this ends in 4 or 5 games, and if it does, it won't really feel that way.
It has the vibes of the game 1 was a perfect example of this, but it has the vibes of the Mariners Astros ALDS.
Right, yeah, it feels a lot closer than as you said the scoreboard or whatever reflects. It's been very competitive, and I think the Yankees probably should have closed out on one of them, but unfortunately did not. But yeah, no, it's been wonderful. I mean, game 1 is it's going to be talked about forever, I think. Just
game ones in general have delivered for the last few years. The last 3 World Series game 1s have all gone to extra innings. We have 2 walk-off home runs in as many years. We have 3 game-winning home runs in the top or the bottom of the inning between Real Muto, Adolis Garcia, and Freddie Freeman. Game 1s have set a high standard over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and then I guess 3 years ago, a guy pitched on a broken leg, so that was cool. That's the only thing I really remember from that game, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember Jorge Soler homering.
Right.
Yeah,
no, it's been there have been some good tone setters over the last few years, as you mentioned. But yeah, we can get right into what happened in game 1. Because there were some good starting pitching performances on both sides. Jack Flaherty ended up going 5 1/3 innings pitched with 5 hits, 2 runs allowed, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and a 48% whiff rate, along with a 38% called strike and whiff rate. And Jack Flaherty had the highest whiff rate in a World Series game with 90-plus pitches thrown in the pitch tracking era. That pitch tracking era, of course, goes back to 2008. So in the last...
I believe he's the 6th pitcher since 2008 with 19 swings and misses in a World Series game or higher.
Right. Yeah, no, he definitely delivered on the swing and miss front, no doubt. So yeah, he was getting a lot of swings and misses. Kind of surprising that he was only able to get 6 strikeouts.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It did feel low, but he did, I guess, pitch 5 1/3. The velocity was back up, which was huge for Flaherty, right? I talked about after game 5 of the NLCS how the big issue with Flaherty is that the fastball velocity wasn't there. He was, I believe, 91.4 miles per hour. The average fastball velocity was 93.6, exactly where Jack Flaherty needs it to be to at least, be competitive. He threw the knuckle curve a lot more, 39%, which would have been the 2nd highest in his career behind NLCS game 5. So he's been relying on his knuckle curve a lot in these playoffs, more than he usually does. And it's been working for him. I mentioned in terms of batted balls, a 60% ground ball rate, the 11th highest for any game of his in his career, minimum 10 batted balls. A lot of that has to do with the knuckle curve usage. So, the pitch usage has been very interesting for Flaherty. And like I mentioned, the four-seam fastball velocity was there, which he needed it to be.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I was so focused on the whiff numbers that I didn't even recognize the batted ball trends. But yeah, he was
Mm-hmm.
also not allowing a high quality of contact against him. Yeah, lots of ground balls and whatnot. But yeah, unfortunately, he did allow 2 runs in the sixth inning on a Giancarlo Stanton home run.
Mammoth home run.
It was absolutely destroyed. And yeah, I mean, obviously Flaherty was looking great up to that point, up to that sixth inning, but should be noted that Jack Flaherty has an 807 OPS against in his third time through the order, or he did during the regular season. So there was an obvious difference. He was at, I think like I think first time through the order he was in the 640s, and second time he was below 600. So
Mm-hmm.
that it went from below 600 to 807 third time through the order. So obviously, yeah, things change a little bit when you're that in that third time through the order. So um, that's partially why, he did not finish off well, and why the Yankees were able to take a lead there. But on the other side, Garrett Cole had a nice performance. He gave up his run earlier on. He went 6 innings, allowed 4 hits, 1 run, no walks, 4 strikeouts, and he allowed 0 batted balls that were both hard hit and in the sweet spot. So quality of contact against him was poor, and good on the pitching front. So yeah, it was cool to kind of have a little bit of a game one World Series pitchers duel that we had.
Yeah. It was very fun. It was 0-0 until the fifth inning. It was 0-0 to the fifth inning. That's when the Dodgers took the lead on that sac fly following the Kike Hernandez triple. Um, this is obviously a close game, and we'll get to a lot of the little things that mattered later on. But yeah, I mean, this is a game that in so many ways could have gone either way. It went to extras, following the Stanton two-run homer, a couple sac flies for the Dodgers, and then the 10th inning rolled around, and that's when things really got crazy.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yeah, we go to the 10th inning where, yeah, Yankees are obviously up first, and um, just hold on a quick second as I go to the play sequence.
That was the Gleyber Torres. Well, first of all, the ninth inning was the Gleyber Torres ball. We should
Yes.
we should probably yeah. I mean, what a crazy moment, right? Where Michael Kopech serves up a 99-mile-an-hour fastball up and into Torres. He pulls it down the left field line. Well, not down the line, but to left center field. And it is correctly called fan interference because it was. I mean, if you want any evidence that it's fan interference, Baseball Savant had that ball not being a home run in Dodger Stadium,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
like what a beautiful resource we have where we can actually like one thing I noticed this year is like when I watch a Rob's home run and you ask the question of like, oh, would that have been gone or not, you can actually check.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, it's
you
pretty
can
sick.
actually verify is that gone or not. And there's plenty of Rob's home runs out there where it says like would be a home run in the ballpark that it was at, but it's ruled it out.
Right, right. Yeah,
So
no.
very cool resource we have. And yeah, that ball, it was fan interference. I mean, it was crazy for a second because I thought it was gone at first. I just saw the ball fall into the glove. Uh, I don't know if you've seen this, Chris, but there's a reaction at like Billy's Sports Bar in New York of the crowd just going crazy, and then slowly people start to realize what had actually happened.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, that's a go ahead, a home run in the ninth inning, like a moment. Like that's the moment of the game right there. If it's gone, right? I mean, that would have won the game for the Yankees. The Dodgers did not go on to score in the ninth. Um, Aaron Judge ended up coming up with a chance to win the game in the ninth. Man on second and 2 outs. and he hits one of the craziest pop-ups I've ever seen, 105 miles an hour and 70 degrees.
Yeah, that's hard to do. It's
I looked it up. I think it's only been done like 11 times in the StatCast era.
wow.
Um,
Yeah.
which we'll get to judge later on, but I mean, like it's incredibly lame to say because he didn't get the job done, but I mean, like he squared up the ball, or he didn't square it up, but he got a good piece of the ball, in that ninth inning at bat. He just, hit it 70 degrees.
Right, right. Yeah, typically, yeah, if you're unaware, typically when you're hitting at 70 degrees, it's going to induce weak contact, but
Well, it's gonna induce an 010 expected batting average, yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, that fan interference was pretty funny. And also, yeah, it was with two outs. So, it
Mhm.
was very momentous. And the fact that it wasn't a home run was a big deal because
Would have been a major win probability added swing for sure.
yeah, yeah. Because yeah, with him getting a double instead, him being driven in was a lot less likely, with it being
Mhm.
two outs. But yeah, eventually, uh, Dodgers go down 1-2-3 in the bottom of the ninth. We head to extras, as you mentioned before. I think it's the third consecutive game one that went into extras.
Mhm.
Um, so that's cool. So yeah, after Giancarlo Stanton strikes out swinging, Jazz Chisholm singles to right field. Um, that was why the exit velocity and launch angle are not posted on the baseball savant, so that's interesting. Then we have an intentional walk uh after some stolen bases by after a stolen base by Jazz Chisholm. Then he steals third. And then yeah, Anthony Volpe hits a ground ball, diving stop by the shortstop, but unfortunately can't get they don't have enough time uh to get Chisholm out at home. So yeah, it's 3-2 Yankees. They were able to, Dodgers are able to prevent the Yankees from scoring after. Then we head to the bottom of the 10th. Gavin Lux walked with one out. Tommy Edman singles. So, now we really have an interesting situation. And then we have Nestor Cortez coming in, who has not pitched for a very long time.
Yeah, we have Nestor Cortez. Yeah, this was the big topic of this game, right? The who do you go with to face Shohei Ohtani in this situation? It was what's first and second with the one out. It was a walk and then a ground ball single from Tommy Edman. And yeah, it was between Tim Hill and Nestor Cortez. Cortez had not pitched since September 18th. Hill had pitched a few times in the postseason, had gotten some big outs for the Yankees, but was kind of a soft tossing lefty, low strikeout rate, but high ground ball. They ended up going with Cortez, who gets Shohei Ohtani to pop out in foul ground. Alex Verdugo makes a nice catch going over the wall. However, he did leave the field of play with the baseball, which caused the runners to move up to second and third, which I feel like most people just don't understand that actually happened, because a lot of people were questioning the intentional walk of Mookie Betts. And I don't really blame Nestor for it because yeah, it's second and third with two outs. Like you want to like Mookie and Freddie, like you're facing a very good hitter regardless. You want at least to have a base open and to have the matchup. So I don't really understand the people questioning the intentional walk of Mookie Betts. Because yeah, if it was first and second, then I get it, but it was second and third, and people the Fox graphic never actually showed that before the intentional walk, so maybe people didn't realize that, but um yeah, I mean, you're facing the injured Freddie Freeman on one ankle, who I guess to his credit has not looked as visibly injured during this series as he did against the Padres and Mets. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Um, like he looks a little bit healthier, you mean?
He doesn't look. I would say he doesn't look as visibly injured.
Yeah, no, you could definitely tell, like late in that Padres series,
Mm-hmm.
like something was off. Whereas this one, um, maybe a little, but it didn't seem to be 100% ailing him as much.
I mean, he hit a triple to left field earlier in this game.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
right.
if game one of the World Series was the first playoff game that you watched, and you didn't know that Freddie Freeman was dealing with an injury, if you watched him hit that triple, you probably wouldn't have questioned it.
Yeah.
But that being said, Freddie Freeman still on a bet, and I mean, I jokingly said to myself alone in my apartment, like, "Oh, you're telling me it's game 1 of the World Series, and the Dodgers have an injured guy coming up with the game on the line?" And well, sure enough, he does the thing, a walk-off grand slam, first pitch, and uh, I mean, he knew it, right? It was one of those gone immediately, a barrel 30 out of 30. And a lot of people were questioning, the decision of Nestor Cortez, and we can have that discussion, but like I feel like people are just so quick to always blame the manager when the players should be held more accountable. Like Chris, how many Freddie Freeman home runs would you say you've watched in your lifetime?
I watched a fair bit.
I would say like not even just live, just replays, and I would say the number is like in the hundreds.
Right.
Right. If I were to ask you to picture a Freddie Freeman home run and where's the pitch located?
Yeah, usually that's gonna be like outside, hit to left center field, just over the wall. Not
I mean, like,
anything
where's the pitch located?
like outside.
But like low, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's low middle. The pitch was low inside, which is like, I mean, when you actually look at his zone ratings, like that's actually like where his biggest spots are low and inside, and that's exactly where Nestor threw him on the first pitch with 93 miles an hour.
Right.
Like Nestor, I get the month of rest. You could have made a better first pitch than that. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, you could have.
exactly.
And even
Yeah.
the pitch to Shohei wasn't great. Like he got him to miss, but it was like 92 middle.
Right. Yeah. Freddie Freeman's someone who, does not hit a lot of ground balls. So throwing it in that lower third is typically going to get worse results. It's a little bit more of an uppercut swing. If it's better to throw that to someone with a higher ground ball rate, obviously, but yeah, when you got guys up there that are looking to put the ball in the air, yeah, putting it in the lower third, unfortunately, is not usually working. So yeah, that was certainly an element. Yeah, the decision to put
Cortez in over Hill.
Cortez in, definitely interesting. I would definitely say I would have probably rather had Hill out there, considering he had thrown 7 playoff innings this year and seemed to be effective. He had a 1.29 ERA, he has a 1.29 ERA and 2.74 FIP this postseason, and heading into that game, it was at 1.59 ERA and 2.99 FIP. But yeah, just was doing very well. His expected numbers were pretty good as well. So yeah, it was certainly interesting to go with the guy who hadn't had as much experience, but I'm sure there's more numbers behind that we're not, we don't have access to. But ultimately, the reason why it gets questioned is because it didn't work. So so yeah, I mean, but there's a large reason to question that, because Tim Hill has been really, really good all throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, have managers just never considered like just always making the right decision?
Yeah, I
Like
don't.
what's going on here? Why do they keep messing up? It's the World Series.
Yeah, and like, why don't they just look at the World Series champion managers and just do that?
Yeah,
Do what they do and
exactly.
make the most right decisions.
Aaron Boone needs to be more like Connie Mack,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
what I mean. That's I know it's look, you can get that analysis anywhere, so I'm not acting like we're being original by saying that, but I mean, sometimes you just got to call it like it is, even if it's not original or unique, right?
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so
No notes. Shout out to Joe Davis for having the situational awareness to say she is gone on the Freddie Freeman homer.
yeah, that
Uh,
was wild.
like in case you didn't know, that's the same call that Vince Scully had on the Kirk Gibson walk-off home run. And I think sometimes it can be very cheap and maybe a little forced to compare, big playoff moments to others with a few similarities. I think it's perfectly valid to compare the Kirk Gibson home run to this Freddie Freeman walk-off. It's not exactly one-to-one. I think the biggest shock value of the Kirk Gibson home run was the fact that he was pinch hitting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's not just that he hit a home run, that he even stepped to the plate at all was a massive deal. Freddie Freeman was in the lineup and you knew that he was coming up in that situation regardless. But I mean, two guys battling an injury very visibly. Kirk Gibson more so than Freeman. If you watched that Gibson at bat, like it was a very like Freeman homered on the first pitch, Gibson homered after like a 7-pitch at bat. And every swing, he looked like he was in so much pain. If you've watched the full at bat, which I'm sure you have. But I mean, 200 guys, World Series game 1, down in the ninth, down in the last inning, and they hit the walk-off homer to right field for the Dodgers. Like, yeah, the similarities are there, and it's undeniable to compare them.
Yeah, that's exactly where it's undeniable. Also, both were while the team was behind,
Mhm.
they yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, you're
Yeah,
right.
it
Yep.
was 4-3 A's. So yeah, both
Hmm.
they were down by 1, so like, being out in in that situation, and yeah, 2 outs in both situations as well. Or no, was was there 1 out in the
There was 2 outs. Well,
two?
I don't know. Well, there's 2 outs on Friday. I don't know how many outs there were at the Gibson. I think there was.
There
I
were
don't think there
two.
was two
No,
there.
yeah,
There were two.
I'm looking at the game logs right now. There were 2 outs there.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, both 2 outs. So both
Yeah.
obviously had crazy high leverage. And in fact, with the Freddie Freeman home run, it was the third highest championship win probability added on a play in Dodgers history. And it was the highest since the Kirk Gibson home run. So Kirk Gibson has him uh ranks above him. There's, I think, some 1947 or 1952 play that outranks both of them, but
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
end up working out
Cookie,
for them.
whatever his name is, that hit that
Yeah,
walk
yeah,
off.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It was also tied for the sixth highest win probability added in postseason history entirely. In a single game, 733. Um, so I mean, yeah, this was an all-time postseason moment
yeah.
that we got to witness.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
So very cool. Very obviously the first walk-off grand slam in World Series history. Um, it would
Yeah,
have been,
yeah,
I guess the only thing that could have made it cooler was if they were down more, but yeah, it's not in their control.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, imagine it was 5-2 and
Yeah,
as
yeah.
that
Why
went out.
didn't Blake Trinan consider being a little worse,
Yeah.
just for the sake of the moment?
Yeah, no, just a real vibe killer there. Um,
Although in that situation, I feel like maybe
Maybe they what?
they don't intentionally walk bets.
Oh yeah, that would be
Yeah,
true.
right.
Yeah, that would,
You don't bring the go ahead run to the plate.
yeah, exactly. You don't create
But
more base runners, but yeah, hypothetically, bets, singles or something, and
yeah,
then we get a
or
3-run home
walks.
run.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you would need a walk.
yeah,
Um,
because it was
but
second and third.
yeah, anything more on game one?
Yeah, I mean it was a very fun game. The Dodgers were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position leading up to that Freeman at bat, and they were not very competitive with runners in scoring position either. Like you mentioned, zero balls hard hit in the sweet spot against Cole. They were just not, I mean, there were a couple loud outs early in that first inning, right? Otani hit that ball to center, Betts hit that ball to left field. Neither were in the sweet spot, but they could have conceivably looked gone off the bat. But other than that, the Dodgers really didn't put a good piece on the ball against Cole. And I don't know if you saw this, but Derek Jeter was speaking on the post game about like you know, should they have removed Cole after 6 at 88 pitches? And I still think the answer is yes. I mean, the bullpen, I mean, like, okay, we should talk about the little things, right? Both of the Dodgers regulation runs scored because of defensive miscues. from right, because the
Yeah.
the Kike Hernandez triple, Juan Soto took a bad route on, and then the second run was that throw back into the infield on the Otani double that Gleyber Torres couldn't handle that allowed him to get to third, and Betts then drove him in on a sac fly. So like, I mean, like that's the Yankees play solid defense all around, and they win that game in regulation. Judge could have won that game in regulation. In terms of Cole, I still think removing him was the fine move because the bullpen did its job to the point where it took years for them to have tied the game.
Right, right. And also ultimately like it, you can't do it completely in hindsight, obviously. And I think, if you play out both situations where you blow the game in both situations, Garrett Cole goes out for the seventh and he allows he allows that game time run, or they do it how they did it that night, which is they gave it up in the eighth. You feel more stupid after allowing Cole to blow the game than you do allowing the bullpen to blow the game.
And
So
it's not even really their fault, like I mentioned.
yeah, exactly.
like
So
Otani should have stayed at second. Kike should have maybe stayed at second. Like, yeah, like both of those should have been limited to doubles.
yeah,
So,
but
and
even
also like the thing that Jeter said specifically was like, well, like he said, like, I hate to be the back in my day type of guy, but when we played the Mets in the World Series in 2000, Al Leiter went out there and threw 120 pitches and won the game. And it's like, hey, Derek, remember your rookie year when David Cohn threw like 140 pitches in a clincher and eventually allowed a game tying walk to Doug Strange?
yeah, hey, remember in I think it was the eighth inning in 2003 when you guys were slamming Pedro Martinez
Yeah,
around, and the entire narrative the whole offseason was they left him in way too long? Yeah.
yeah. Like you can point to these instances where it's like, oh, this guy threw this many pitches and did well. And it's like you can point to just as many, if not more, examples of they let this guy out there and it cost them the game. Like again, people love to tell, like I love talking about the 1995 ALDS and the Edgar Martinez double, like the blown lead by John Wetland. But like they like look at how long they left David Cohn out there in that game to a point where again they allowed the game tying one run on a eighth inning walk to Doug Strange.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's what caused them to take him out of the game
Yeah,
and not
exactly.
loading the bases beforehand.
Right, right. And the problem, if people would accept, what reality is, if, those long outings weren't so cool. It is unquestionably amazing when someone throws, a complete game in the playoffs or something like that. But that most of the time that's not the correct decision. So yeah, I don't know. Just it is, I think them bringing that up is a hindsight thing, and it's kind of silly.
Just talking about more commentary from this game. John Smoltz, I mean, he's the gift that keeps on giving on this show, right? Uh, Obviously with the Flaherty stuff, I mean, I don't mind like letting him face Soto and Judge, but I feel like he probably should have been taken out after that Soto single that led to the Stanton home run in the sixth inning. Um, because I don't know. I mean, Soto and Stanton have just been too good this postseason to really have me justify most of any pitcher facing a third time. Um, I mean, they even had a quick hook with Yamamoto, and like considering how he was rolling, he retired 11 straight batters and was at like 80 something pitches, and they let him out. But John Smoltz said like, there's no reason to take. Their Flaherty has shown no reason to be taken out. He gives up the Soto single, and he didn't really address the third time stuff through after that at any point.
Yeah,
After
exactly.
the it's one thing like I don't know when Stanton homers there. I feel like the objectively correct analysis is to at least mention the third time through stuff. John Smoltz didn't mention it a single time, uh, unsurprisingly. And then later in the game, this is my favorite moment. I'll probably post this on Twitter later, but it's the top of the ninth inning. Kopech is on, and on 1-0, Gleyber Torres swings and misses at a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, and he swings like he's swinging at a 97-mile-an-hour fastball because like you kind of got to fight power with power in that sense. Uh, and Smoltz goes like, like against that Kopech fastball high and in, like you can't have a big swing, like you got to be short with it because you're not like the power swing doesn't work. And then Glaber immediately after drives a 99-mile-an-hour fastball up and in, uh, you know, for that fan interference double that was almost a home run.
Yeah,
And it's very fun to see him just get immediately proven wrong like that.
with a bat speed above
Yep.
his regular season average. Yeah, and yeah, with the third time through the order thing, and we were talking about this before the show started, is like the whole point is it doesn't matter if he hasn't shown any signs to take him
Mhm.
out because, as we mentioned, he had an 807 OPS against with a third time through the order. Like, I'm sure there were plenty of times this season he hadn't shown any reason to be taken out, and started to falter that third time through the order. Luckily, we have data and numbers to show what the odds of something potentially happening so that you don't have to rely on something happening. You don't have to rely on the bad things happening before you take him out, and you can just
Mhm.
take him out before the bad things happen. But that's that's nerd stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
that
I mean that
yeah,
that
that's
fan
it's
interference. Uh, yeah, it was very funny just seeing Smoltz immediately get basically proven wrong. He said like you can't do this thing, and then Gleyber Torres did the thing to the exact detail that he said he couldn't do it.
Yeah, I'd love to be a stat graphic person at Fox and like kind of subtly own Smoltz by like having a graphic of like of certain things like um Torres bat speed on that swing 70.3, season average 70.1, or like showing Flaherty's third time through the order numbers or whatever.
It is very annoying that people can literally just like use the exact language that Smoltz did of like you can't do it, it doesn't work, and not be like a little more subjective about it, and be wrong and just not be held accountable at all.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
if
exactly.
John Smoltz had said like it's very difficult to do that, then there's at least he leaves a little bit of room for deniability. But like he stood like if you watch back the broadcast, he said like his words were you can't do this, it doesn't work,
Right, right. Yeah,
and
no.
he did the thing, and it did work.
Yeah, speaking in very very absolute language.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that it's very funny to see that. Um yeah, and yeah, the whole like that's the whole thing with the third time through the order thing with the other, the other point is you're totally missing the point if you think, you need to allow bad things to happen
Mm-hmm.
in order for it to be correct.
In order to decide that he doesn't have it third time through
Yeah. You can we have,
in a one
30
nothing game.
yeah, we have 162 innings worth of data to go off of with Jack
Mm-hmm.
Flaherty this season. And it showed that he was much less effective third time through the order. But anyway, uh game one, legendary game. What were we seeing in game two?
Yeah, game two, a lot quieter, but it did get pretty loud in the late innings. Yeah, I mean, this is a big time analytics game for sure. The Dodgers scored all their runs on home runs. The Yankees scored none of their, or they scored one of their runs on home runs. But they got out homered and lost. Um, and the Dodgers, they had an interesting hook with Yamamoto, but he was great. I mean, he looked shaky those first couple of innings, right? He had two walks. He had uh, all three of the first three batters got to a 3-2 count in the first inning. But he was able to muscle his way through 6 innings. He retired 11 straight to end his outing. 56.3% ground ball rate, which was solid. Only 4 strikeouts. Didn't have the swing and miss stuff working early in the outing, but he got it a little more towards the end. They removed him after 6. He threw a total of I forget the exact number. It was like 80 something pitches. It was to the degree where they could have conceivably brought him back out for the 7th. They didn't do that, and it worked. Or no, they did bring him. Sorry, they did bring him out for the 7th. They had him face Giancarlo Stanton. He struck him out, and then they had Bonda come in to face the two lefties.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned like yeah, Yamamoto didn't have strikeout stuff, but yeah, when you're allowing 56% ground balls, that's gonna work in your favor. Also, his average exit velocity on the night was 84.8 miles per hour.
Mhm.
So you know, typically when a guy's not getting strikeouts and is getting outs, he's getting a good bit lucky, but that wasn't necessarily the case with Yamamoto. His expected slug his expected numbers were above his actual numbers for the night, but his expected numbers were still very good. So he was just getting a lot of ground balls and getting his outs by poor quality of contact rather than getting those swings and misses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they took him out, I think, at the appropriate time, even if it was 86 pitches. And Blake Trinan, I mean, what was that? I mean, he couldn't get a lefty out to save his life out there. If you look at the inning, right, it was a Soto single. Judge struck out, Stanton singled, Jazz singled, Anthony Rizzo got hit by the pitch, Volpe struck out, and then he got taken out before the Jose Trevino flyout against Alex Vesia. So, I mean, lefties went 2 for 2 with a hit by pitch, so he let all three lefties reach base, and then righties they went what 1 for 3 with a single.
Um, with who?
Trinan.
Um, yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
I was just looking for numbers on where um how pitchers perform on certain pitch counts, but apparently the difference between pitches 51 through 75 are not that different than 76 through 100 because I was about to say like um uh, 80 pitches is almost like 100 pitches in the regular season, like how it's viewed of
Mm-hmm.
that quick hook. Like I think we kind of forget that the postseason schedule is a lot different than the regular season schedule. And in
Mm-hmm.
regular season games, you're playing the long game and you're trying to save your bullpen in the long term. So you're totally good tossing your starters out there, but with the in the postseason, you're not saving your postseason arms or your bullpen arms for anything, and you're also getting a lot more rest days than you do in the regular season, or at least a higher frequency of them. So that's why these guys get pulled out. It's not because all of a sudden you have to be extra careful with them, or like it's not they're not doing it for no particular reason. They're doing it because um they extend them more in the regular season, not necessarily because it's always the um, right decision in terms of preventing runs. It's just playing the long game of saving some bullpen arms, and because the starting pitcher has that capability of staying out there and not injuring himself by throwing 100 pitches. Um, so that's why the game changes in October where stakes are higher and you're trying to avoid those mistake prone areas in that 90 to 100 pitch time area. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like when people are saying, oh, he was only at 86 pitches, you know it's not the regular season anymore.
No.
We're we're playing high stakes poker here.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you already talk about the numbers on Rodon for the night?
I did not. I'll get to that. Yeah, Rodon had a rough night. 3 home runs allowed, a 69.2% hard hit rate. That is tied for 10th among the 668 postseason outings with at least 10 batted balls since 2015. So he was giving up a lot of hard contact, a lot of home runs, obviously. The Dodgers as a whole finished the game with a 56% hard hit rate, the third highest by a team in the World Series since 2015. That's as far back as we can track that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, a lot of loud contact by the Dodgers, especially early in this game. And yeah, the home runs kind of put them away. Um, Although they got brought back in. The Yankees bullpen kind of quietly had a really fantastic night, keeping them in the game and setting up at least like a close enough ninth inning. 4 2/3 innings pitched for the Yankees bullpen, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. They were excellent between, I believe it was Clay Holmes, it was Tim Hill, it was Mark Leiter Jr., it was Jake Cousins, not in that order. They all pitched very uncompetitive in this game from an offensive standpoint before the ninth inning. In the first 8 innings of the game, they had 3 batted balls that were hard hit and in the sweet spot, making up 15% of their total batted balls. In the ninth inning, they had 2 such batted balls, making up 50%. So, they were not hitting the ball very well up until that ninth inning. The Soto home run was really the only spark of life they had. They only had 1 hit through 8 innings. And then, they had, 3 in the ninth. The Dodgers made it close, or the Yankees made it close, but, the damage had been done against Rodon.
Indeed. I'm checking to see what the league league average of percentage of batted balls that are hard hit in the sweet spot percent is 18%. So yeah, they were below average on that in the first 8 innings of the game. We're here. It's 2-0 Dodgers. But yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like that, and it feels like the Yankees are very much in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Even Jose Trevino put a good piece on the ball against Vesia. It was hard hit and in the sweet spot. In fact, it was 95.1 miles per hour and 32 degrees, which is like the border of both. But he hits the ball 345 feet to end the game, and hypothetically, if he could just get a little bit ahead of that ball more and hit it the exact same way, that is gone down the right field line or the left field line.
Right. Yeah.
So and I know that's but that just goes to show a couple things go literally 2 things go differently between the Freeman grand slam and the Trevino fly ball, and it's 2-0 Yankees.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And heading into the Bronx, I think there's a very good case that, and it might just be factual, that the Yankees have a starting pitching advantage in all 3 games. They got Clark Schmidt going against Walker Buehler. We'll see what version of Walker Buehler we get, because he was actually magnificent against the Mets.
Was it only 4 innings?
Yeah, it was 4 innings. But
but that's all you need.
He had some crazy whiff rate numbers. Yeah, that's a complete start. That's a postseason quality start.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was Buehler was dazzling against the Mets, but he was pretty awful against the Padres. So we'll see what version of him we get. But yeah, he's going against Clark Schmidt. Then we got Luis Gil versus the Dodgers bullpen. And then we got Garrett Cole versus Jack Flaherty. Most likely, it hasn't been announced, but it would be difficult to imagine that's not the case, unless, I guess, yeah, they could probably throw Cole out their game 4 objective, or actually, sorry, my brain's breaking. They did announce Gil, so
yeah, they did announce Gil.
They did announce Gil for game 4.
Obviously, there's a lot of things that would need to go right for this to actually play out, but I think the idea of a team like the Dodgers winning the World Series on a bullpen game would be very fun.
It would be. Yeah,
because I remember the Diamondbacks went with a bullpen game in game 4 last year, and so much of the narrative was if you're throwing a bullpen game in the World Series, you shouldn't be in the World Series. And certainly the Dodgers, have more resources than the Diamondbacks, but I think the Dodgers doing that same thing and winning the World Series would be very fun the very next year.
It would, yeah, for sure. It would be very 2024 of us to have that happen. Yeah, no, that would be pretty hilarious. Did you want to get into any of the game of the first 2 games trends that kind of happened under the surface?
Yeah, we talk about how close these games are, and they are, but the analytics actually are pretty lopsided. First of all, the Yankees with runners on in this series, they have a 143 average, 250 slugging, and a 34.5% strikeout rate. So They certainly need to be better with runners on. They're a combined, I believe it's 2 for 14 with runners in scoring position between games 1 and 2. And both of them are singles. There was the Stanton single off the base in the 9th inning, and then in game 1, that ball up the middle that Tommy Edman fielded that saved a run. So I mean, 2 singles that were ground balls in terms of hits with runners in scoring position. Nothing that big. Aaron Judge, this has been pretty much the major storyline, and I would argue maybe the biggest reason that the Yankees are down 2-0 right now. There certainly are many reasons, but if you had to point to one, I feel like Aaron Judge should probably be the one. He's 1 for 9 with a 222 OPS, a 66.7% strikeout rate, 9 at bats and 6 strikeouts, and perhaps most dauntingly, a 34.8% chase rate, which just to give you an idea, his chase rate is 18.7%. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty clear sign that this is going on there, because, I mean, going from an 18% chase rate to a 34% is just not something that is naturally.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I saw 1 for 9 and I'm like, okay, maybe he's running into some bad luck. And then I see 67% strikeout rate, and it's like, okay, well, this is not luck involved. He's actually performing very badly.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's, people have been having the conversation about Aaron Judge in the postseason pretty much all year. His career postseason average is now down below 200. He's hitting, I believe, like 150 throughout the playoffs total. But throughout the first couple series, he actually did run into some bad luck. But in the World Series, it's just been straight up, he's not playing well at all.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
If, I don't want to, I mean, like, he's got, another 2, between 2 to 5 games to save off this narrative, because it's going to grow so much over the next year if he doesn't turn things around and the Yankees don't go on to win the series.
Yeah, indeed.
Like, he's like, honestly, like, at this point, and he can save the narrative. He can keep this from being a conversation that we have, but like, he's in Kershaw territory, in my opinion, right now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would agree. I mean, like, considering the difference in performance, like because yeah, it's the same thing where Kershaw was a Cy Young caliber guy and then was kind of an average player in the playoffs. Whereas Judge obviously he's gonna win MVP this year very deservedly. It's gonna kind of be funny when he
I was gonna
gets
say,
accepted for
if
that
Aaron
award.
Judge goes on to, let's say he finishes the World Series with roughly these same numbers and they lose. Like, how, like, the way that he looks on that stage, on that Zoom call for the MVP is going to be so tough to look at.
Yeah, It's like, oh yeah, I guess my 11 wins above replacement didn't matter this year.
Mm-hmm.
I sucked in the World
Because,
Series.
like, if you watch back, like, I've watched back a lot of the Aaron Judge, like, post game comments after these postseason eliminations, and like, he's always the first to hold himself accountable. Like, even you look back at like 2017 and 18 when they lost to the Astros, they lost to the Red Sox. Like, he was not on the field in those postseason series. Like, he hit very well against the Red Sox, he hit very well against the Astros, and he'll still be the first person to be like, I didn't do my job. And it's like, no, you did your job. Everyone else didn't. Uh, but he actually hasn't done his job in the last few seasons now. Um, but he's always been the first to hold himself accountable. And I can't imagine how he's been feeling these last few days. Like, I'm sure he's just as frustrated as everyone else is about his postseason performance. But he's got a few games to save himself from an entire year of these conversations.
Right, exactly. Yeah, looking at his career as a whole in the postseason, his strikeout rate is 34%, which is
Mm-hmm.
much above his regular season average. I will say 237 BABIP, which is definitely, I think there's definitely some
Mm-hmm.
bad luck on his side, but
For
it's
sure.
not exclusively that. When you have a 34% strikeout rate, obviously you're not doing everything you can to be
I
productive.
believe like a minimum 150 plate appearances in the postseason. He's like, he and Martin Maldonado are like 1 and 2 of highest strikeout rates.
Yeah, that's quite something.
Yeah.
Um, And yeah, looking at some more of your notes in terms of the under the surface stuff with both teams. Dodgers are outline driving the Yankees by a lot. They have a 26.3% line drive rate. Yankees have a 15.7%. Dodgers are only grounding the ball 26.3% of the time, while the Yankees are at 52.9%. The Dodgers have a 31.6% fly ball rate, and the Yankees have a 21.6% fly ball rate. Dodgers are also pulling their fly balls a lot more with a 44.4% pull rate on fly balls, whereas the Yankees are at 27.3%. And the Dodgers also have a higher sweet spot rate at 45.6%, while the Yankees are at 21.6%. This has been partially a result of this has partially resulted in the Dodgers having a higher isolated power, having more offense production based off of their power, with the Dodgers having a 313 ISO, with the Yankees having an 099 ISO. Dodgers have also been making more contact with a 14% strikeout rate and 18% whiff rate, whereas the Yankees are at a 26.3% strikeout rate and 35.4% whiff rate. So yeah, I did not think to look at the numbers all the way for the first two games, but under the surface, yeah, it looks like you kind of found that the Dodgers are greatly outperforming the Yankees under the hood.
Let me ask you this. So you just ran through all those notes. I don't know if you had read them beforehand, but which one really stood out to you the most?
Stood out to me the most. I don't know if it's going to be the answer you want.
There isn't an answer I want.
It's the greatest discrepancy is certainly the ground balls. I will say that.
Oh yeah.
That is 26.3% to 52.9%. That is the greatest discrepancy, I will say.
Is that the one that stands out to you the most?
Probably that or the strikeout rate.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because we talk about how a few bounces here and there, the Yankees are up to nothing, but like the Dodgers have played the analytical game significantly better.
Yeah, for sure. And the Yankees are normally good at those things as well, just not these first two games. I think we talked about how they had the highest barrel rate among all teams, but yeah, they are not executing like they should be, and I guess that's a good credit to the Dodgers pitching staff, Flaherty, especially Flaherty and Yamamoto, getting those ground balls, doing whatever they can, whether it be, probably a lot of off-speed pitches down in the zone or even below the zone that have been inducing these ground balls. So yeah, I mean, good on the Dodgers for sure, but yeah, Yankees obviously have to step it up offensively.
All right, I think that's all that I had today. Is there anything else from you?
No. Yeah. Excited to watch some more because I feel like oftentimes when a team's up 2-0, it feels over, but in this situation, not whatsoever.
No.
Yeah, excited to get back into it. But yeah, if you were listening, we hope you enjoyed this one. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. Go check out all the guest interviews. They're all lined up in a playlist. We've had Mark Simon on 4 times. We've had Foolish Bailey on. We've had Chris Rose, Jeff Passan, Sarah Langs, and Mike Petriello. All pretty important figures in baseball media. So yeah, check that out. Also, follow us on social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Kern, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. We hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you next time, where we will be talking about definitely games 3 and 4, maybe games 3, 4, and 5, and maybe the World Series champions. So we will see you then.
This conversation is over.